We're back to the show. Thank you for staying in and tuning in with us. Today we're going to talk with John Spurr, who is the CEO of Inspired Life Mortgage. He's also an inspiring young man who's always sitting there trying to help out whoever needs help when it comes to lending or borrowing. With that being said, talk a little bit about USDA.
Yeah, USDA is a product that you don't really hear about very often unless you listen to the show, because we talk about it a lot.
We have talked about it before.
Yeah.
And I think every time we say the people that certify our beef also guarantee mortgage loans.
Which is fantastic, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because they'll do 100% lending. It's great.
So 100% lending means that we have no down payment.
No down payment. And if we find a motivated seller, maybe we can pay all the closing costs and you're in this thing for zero.
And that sounds pretty attractive as far as I'm concerned. You can buy a house, you don't need a down payment, and maybe we can get you some closing costs.
Yeah.
So where does this house have to be located?
Well, I was poking around USDA's website and basically overlaid that map with the map for MLS listings, and I found, what was that, just over 120 properties in the outlying areas of Tucson that qualify for USDA financing. The first zip code I looked at was 85629, which is basically going to be Pima Mine Road would be the north border. Sarita Road in Wilmont would be roughly the east boundary, and there's pretty much no south border. There were 72 properties I found in there that qualify for USDA financing, ranging from $199,000 to $374,000 sales price.
And is that the cap for USDA?
377,600.
Okay, so if the property is 400, can they come in with cash if they want to, or is that just like a cap for the?
No, they can absolutely come in with cash if they want to. If USDA ends up being the best financing option versus Fannie, Freddie, FHA, they definitely can come in with money to get down to the cap for the loan limit.
Hey, John, why wouldn't USDA loan be the best if it's 0 and 0? What are the factors that change it from conventional?
Well, if you're going to have to come in for down payment because you're buying a $400,000 home and you have a really good credit score, FHA might be better. Even one of the Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae first-time homebuyer programs might be better. But that's what I do. And you guys have experienced. I take the person's unique needs, and I say that all the time. I use the word unique a lot. And we look at all the different options. And if USDA is the best, that's what we're going to do.
And you say you're looking at that person, but you're also looking at that house.
Absolutely. A property can definitely change our financing type.
And it doesn't have to be an outlying area, does it, to have the type of loan come into play? I mean, are there places in central Tucson where there used to be, is why I'm asking, there may be a lower income area that would benefit the buyer where maybe they don't have to have as much down. Are those programs still out there?
So there are still low down payment options through Fannie and Freddie for first-time home buyers, and the term they use now is distressed areas. I don't like that term, but that's the term that they use. It still has an income limit cap, and it's usually 80% of the Pima County median income. In some neighborhoods it's 100%. So again, in that scenario, how much you make, what is the neighborhood, is all going to come into play. I think one thing that people understand is the definition of a first-time home buyer is we need one borrower on the transaction that has not owned real estate in the last 3 years. So if you owned a home 4 years ago, you're considered a first-time home buyer again.
Or if you're married to someone.
Or if you're married to somebody who's never owned a home or hasn't owned a home in the last 4 years, you would qualify for first-time home buyer programs that are out there.
And as long as you're on the application together, would that be people that are unmarried as well?
Yes.
So there's a lot of options out there for people. I like that you're matching them to the product and the house and trying to find the best scenario for them.
Yeah, mortgage is definitely not one size fits all.
You talked about the
nothing. I'm sorry. Nothing is one size fits all. I don't care who's been spreading that rumor. There is nothing that is truly one size fits all.
You talked about. Sorry.
And we just went sideways.
You talked about 72 properties in the 85629 area, but there's also other areas also. Do you want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so 85641, which is going to basically be Sarita Road south and Wilmont to the west, would be the west boundary, or Wilmont to the east. There's 30 properties in there, and that actually encompasses Corona de Tucson, which has some great subdivisions in it. There's that little townhome community in there that used to have the golf course, and the golf course isn't there anymore. But I mean, there were properties in there for 225, 230, 285 that you can buy with no money down. I don't think enough people talk about USDA, and I think there's a lot of people trying to get into a home that don't. They have good credit, they have good income, they just can't save up the down payment. So you may have to live on the outskirts a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work from home, does it really matter? You're only driving in once a week for groceries.
And what are the credit requirements or some of the other requirements to qualify for the USDA loans?
So USDA, we are going to have a 620 credit score or better. Excuse me. And typically we cannot exceed a DTI of 43%. So they do have stricter underwriting guidelines and income guidelines and down payment, but or DTI, I mean, but that comes with the fact that they're going to finance 100% of that house.
Mm-hmm.
If someone owns a property in another state and they are looking to keep that as a rental and move here, is that going to deter them from being qualified for the USDA?
So USDA, you can only own one property.
Okay.
So if you would have to sell whatever property you currently own if you're going to come here and use USDA.
You guys have all the cheat sheets. This isn't fair. Why is everyone looking at me?
Well, I mean,
No, we're talking about a couple more areas. I think Arrow Valley is in there. Are there any places in Tucson themselves that are possible candidates for USDA loans?
no, it's going to be the outlying areas.
Okay.
USDA redid the map. Gosh, it's probably been 15 years now, maybe even longer, maybe 20 years. When Rita Ranch started taking off like wildfire, all of those qualified for USDA.
Yes.
And so they kind of pushed those boundaries out in Tucson, and they did the same thing in the Phoenix area also, because it really was designed for farmers and ranchers to be able to get 100% financing, but we use it all the time for residential real estate and for individuals that are in subdivision. But like parts of Rancho Sarita fall in USDA still.
Don't you think as we get better equipped and better informed on the different options that we have with loans, we do a better job talking to our lenders, not lenders, but our clients about the different loans? Because sometimes they say, hey, this is conventional. We don't want USDA. We don't want FHA. We don't want VA. They don't realize how great those loans are. And the fact that some of those are privileges, like the VA loan for military. It's a privilege that they have to use. So they're not using it because they have to. They're using it because it's a privilege that gives them an opportunity to buy a house for zero down.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the phrase? Knowledge is power, and that's really it is. It's just educating home buyers on what their options are, and then making the right decision that meets their needs. I mean, I've seen so many loan officers over the years just say, "Oh, you got to have 20% down, and you're doing a 30-year fix. You got to have 10% down, you're doing a 30-year fixed," and that's just not the case. There's tons of options out there. And I just need a chance to talk to people and then work through the options and figure out what works best for them.
So if you are in an outer lying area and you don't know if your property is in USDA, you can call John. If you're listed, have your agent call John, and he can tell you whether or not that's a financing option that might broaden your buyer pool.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It takes very little time to look up and see if it's a USDA approved property.
You're listening to the I Am Real Estate Show on 10:30 a.m. The Voice, KVOI. We'll be back with more of John Spurr of Inspired Life Mortgage.